Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's session. In today's session, we are going to look into the cluster analysis. Cluster is a very useful technique where we can use it for the market segmentation, or you can think, if you want to create any kind of a grouping and you want to label those any kind of a purpose, right? If it is like a market research or a market segmentation problem, then you will know each segment how you want to cater it, how want to push your sales. You will be better knowing. That is a one useful application for the cluster analysis. Other analysis that can be performed on the general patients clustering, or customer clustering, or a student clustering. So there are many clustering applications are possible. Cluster analysis is used for the automatic identification of the natural grouping of the things. It's also known as the segmentation technique, as I just talked about. Cluster analysis is nothing but you will automatically identify the groups, okay, for the given objects or the data points. You will identify the groups, and each group can be defined, okay. Every group has a particular definition can be given, and we can always put any unknown data point or object into one of the clusters that are defined. In this technique, data instances that are similar to each other are characterized into one cluster. Similarly, data instances that are very different from each other will be moved into different clusters. So here, how do we know whether the data points or the objects are similar? There is something called as the distance. We measure the distance between these objects or the data points, and whichever is having a minimum distance, that will be considered as a one cluster. So those belong to one cluster, and the elements or the data points which are having a higher distance, that can be categorized as a different cluster. And there are many techniques to measure the distance between the two objects. One of the example is the Euclidean distance. You can measure the Euclidean distance and identify whether they belong to the cluster or they don't belong to the cluster. And as I told you, clustering is a unsupervised learning technique, as there is no output or dependent variable for which a right or wrong answer can be computed. For example, so far we looked into a regression, right? In case of a regression or artificial neural network, for the prediction and the classification examples, we saw that there is a output, proper output. Training data is there, and the dependent variable will be having some kind of a output. We train the model, so that is why we call it as a supervised learning. Those methods are the supervised learning, where we have already the training data, which will explain which data point says what should be the output, and according to we train the model. But in this scenario, we don't have any kind of a output. There is no dependent variable. Only what we have is the data, right? And using this data, the model has to somehow it has to find a way to categorize this complete data into a different clusters and define them. So that is why we call it as a unsupervised learning. The correct number of clusters or the definition of those clusters not known ahead of a time. Clustering techniques can only suggest to the user how many clusters would make sense from the characteristics of the data. So how many clusters is the right clusters? It's very difficult to tell because we don't know. It is a iterative process where you will keep on creating the clusters. Maybe like in some scenario, three clusters is a good number and it gives a very good definition. In some scenario, maybe 10 clusters is a good number, which will distinctly define all those clusters. And when we are coming up with what is the correct number, it depends on lot of factors. The knowledge, the knowledge possessed by the data scientist or the ML modeler, how he understands the business and how intuitively he thinks how many groups or the cluster should be there. The user can specify different larger or a smaller number of desired cluster based on their making business sense. As I told you, the business knowledge is a one intuitive power it will give, where we can guess a very close guess of having how many number of clusters, or what size of the cluster, large or small clusters. The cluster analysis technique will then define many distinct clusters from the analysis of the data, with cluster definitions for each of those clusters. So once we have all the clusters, then using their centroid, we can define those clusters. However, there are good cluster definition depending upon how closely the cluster parameters fits the data. How well is the cluster definition? It depends on how well the how close are the objects that belong to the cluster. So if the cluster objects are tightly grouped, then we will have a better definition for that particular cluster. And this is the one example of a cluster analysis. This caselet is conducted by the National Insurance Company that distributes personal and small commercial insurance products through independent agents. They wanted to increase their sales by having a good understanding about the customers. What they did was they did not go through the agents for this activity. They already had all the information, the insurance information, what the customers is buying from them. And apart from that data that they had, they collected many other data like attitudinal, behavioral, demographic data by conducting a mail survey. Through that mail survey, they got a lot of information. They combined with the existing data that they have, and they perform the cluster analysis on top of that data. Then they found these five segments which are equally grouped. These five segments are first one is the non-traditionals. That particular cluster, they were interested in using the internet and the technology, and buying the insurance at their work. Okay, so these are the non-traditional, means they did not follow the traditional routes. They went for the latest technology. That is one group. Then second one is the direct buyers. They are interested in buying directly from the company through the mail or through telephone. They don't want to go through the agent. That is another category. The another cluster was a budget conscious. In this budget conscious group cluster, they were very particular about the having a very suitable coverage or the minimal coverage that is required for their need, and to have a very best deal for that coverage. Then third one are the agent loyals. These are the group or the cluster where customer wanted to have a relationship with the agent, conduct all the insurance related activity through that particular agent. The next one is a hassle free. They were similar to agent loyals but less interested in face to face services. So these are also like they want a particular source agent, agent loyals, but they don't want any face to face kind of services. Then application of the cluster analysis, where all we can apply the clustering technique or the cluster analysis. Wherever you want to group or create a characteristic groups among the population, and label them, define them. Wherever you have such a need or such a application, you can use the cluster analysis. For example, market segmentation, market research, where you want to identify the different markets based on certain characteristics. So cluster analysis is used in almost every field where there is a large variety of transaction. It helps provide characterization, definition, and labels for the populations. So that is the main purpose. It can help identify natural grouping of customers, products, patients, and so on. So this will naturally give us how we can group together certain products, how we can group together certain customers, and label them, right? It can be for products, patients, customers, any other thing. We can do that using the cluster analysis. It can also help identify outliers in a specific domain, and thus decrease the size and the complexity of the problem. So what is the outlier? Outlier is doesn't belong to any of the cluster. So once we identify the outliers, the percentage of that outliers is very very small, maybe 1% or less than that. So we can exclude them, and we can have a very simple system. So that is how we can reduce the complexity by removing the outliers. And prominent business application of cluster analysis is in market research. In case of market research, we can use this. Customers are segmented into clusters based on their characteristics, wants and needs, geography, price sensitivity, and so on. So based on their buying pattern, okay, the buying pattern includes everything. It includes their geography, their price, their categories of their products. So all together we can we can cluster the customers. Here are some examples of clustering. First one is the market segmentation. As I told you, it's a very useful in market segmentation, categorizing customers according to their similarity. For instances, by their common wants and needs, then propensity to pay can help with the targeted marketing. So we can identify these different customer segments, and according to that, we can cater their needs. Then product portfolio. People of similar sizes can be grouped together to make a small, medium, large size of clothing items. So that is a product portfolio. Text mining. Clustering can help organize a given collection of text document according to their content similarities into clusters of related topics. For example, news mining. I told about the news mining. In case of a news mining, there are a lot of articles are there. Then you can mine that data, and then you can identify what is the closeness between that data, and accordingly you can group them. Okay, all the articles are grouped together. Now you can identify one cluster, it is only getting the sports news. One cluster, it is for the political news. One cluster for the news related to education, news related to movies, entertainment. So we can do like we can give a definition for those different kinds of clustering. Definition of a cluster. An operational definition of a cluster is that given a representation of n objects, find k groups based on a measure of similarity such that objects within the same groups are alike, but the objects in different groups are not alike. So this is what you have been given with the n objects. Let us say 100 objects. You have to find k groups. Maybe there are 4 distinct groups out of those n objects. Let us say 25 they behave similarly, other 25 they behave in some other way, and similarly there might be k could be like 3 groups, 25, 25, and 50. So which have like a very distinct similarity between those, and it is distinct from the other clusters. The notion of similarity can be interpreted in many ways. Cluster can differ in terms of their shape, size, and density. So the clusters will depend on their similarity, not on any other thing. So that is why you can have a larger cluster, because there are objects which are having a similar properties, and we can have a very small a population which is having a similar kind of characteristic. So they will differ in shape, size, and density. Clusters are patterns, and there can be many kinds of patterns. Some clusters are traditional types, such as data points hanging together. So that is one example. However, there are other clusters such as all points represent a circumference of a circle. For example, all the data points which are on the circumference of the circle, they have a similar pattern because they are part of the circle. There may be concentric circles with points of different circles representing the different clusters. The presence of noise in the data makes the detection of the cluster even more difficult. What is a noise? Noise is what? It is a unwanted data. It will not help us in doing the analysis, but it will make sure that our analysis will not go in the right direction. That is called as a noise. Identifying noise and removing the noise is one of the important thing. So when we have less noise in the data, then the clustering analysis would be much easier. This is the one example. An ideal cluster can be defined as set of points that is compact and isolated. In reality, a cluster is a subjective entity whose significance and interpretations require domain knowledge. So this is the example. These are the different data points, and this is how the different data points. If you plot it as a scatter plot. Now, if I ask you a question, how many groups you can form here? Again, it depends. Maybe like you can see like this is looking like a one group, right?
Excuse
Maybe
me, sir.
yeah.
Sir, I can't see the screen.
Or sorry. Okay,
Yes, sir, I can see now.
you can see. Okay. Okay, now these are the different data points, and we have plotted it on the scatter plot. Now, if I ask you to how many groups you are seeing it, maybe like you can. It depends on the business knowledge and what application we are creating it for. Maybe you can see like this is a one group, and every data scientist or a business analyst or a data modeler will see the data differently and interpret the data differently. Maybe I am seeing a group like this. This is one group, and this is another group. Maybe there are two groups that are here, or maybe some other person will see it as like a three distinct groups. Okay, this group is one, clearly they are very close, and this is another group, and this is the third group. So this is how the clustering happens. The cluster can be represented by a central or the modal value. A cluster can be defined as the centroid of the collection of points belonging to it. So the centroid will define the what that particular cluster is. Suppose if I have this group as together, I will get centroid somewhere here. That centroid will give the definition for this particular cluster. The centroid is a measure of central tendency. It is a point from where the sum of total square distances from all the points is the minimum. So centroid is what? You will have like a point which will have a minimal distance from all of this. So maybe if it is a xy axis, it is the centroid would be the average of the x and y values of these data points. That is called as a centroid. And in real life, equivalent would be the city center. For example, how you define the a city, for example, Mumbai. How you define Mumbai? It is like a city center. How the city center looks like. Okay, that goes the definition of that particular city. Similarly, in case of a cluster, we go by the centroid. Whatever is the definition of the center, that will be applied to the that particular cluster. The in real life equivalent would be the city center as the points that is considered most easy to use by all the constituent of the city. Thus, all the cities are defined by their centers or downtown areas. So that is how they get their definition. A cluster can also be represented by most frequently occurring value in the cluster. That is, a cluster can be defined by its model value. That is another way of doing it. Then cluster techniques. Cluster analysis is a machine learning technique. The quality for clustering result depends on the algorithm, the distance function, and the application. So this is already we told this is a unsupervised machine learning technique, and the quality of the clustering. When we say quality of the clustering, means how well you have grouped those data points. It depends on the algorithm itself and what kind of a distance function you are using, because using the distance function you are going to find the similarity, and what kind of a application you are using it for, it depends on all those factors. So first we are going to consider the distance function, and most cluster analysis method use the distance measure to calculate the closeness between the pairs of items. Okay, so we find that distance function, and using that distance function, how close two objects are that can be found, and they can be put it into one cluster. There are two major distances functions that we one of that is a Euclidean distance, and Euclidean distance is very intuitive, okay, and easy to identify the distance between the two objects. And the other most popular measure is a Manhattan distance, okay, or a rectilinear distance. The how we do it in a Manhattan, where it can one can go only in the orthogonal direction. The Euclidean distance is a hypotenuse of a right triangle. So if you have a right angle triangle, the hypotenuse is the Euclidean distance, and the Manhattan distance is the two sides. Okay, the other two sides we can measure using the two other sides. That is a Manhattan distance. There are many algorithms to produce clusters. There are top-down hierarchical methods that start with creating a given number best fitting clusters. One approach is the top-down. So we tell about how many clusters could be there. Let us say we start with the five clusters, and then we drill down. Or there is another approach which comes from the bottom up. Okay, in case of a bottom up, we are going to find the each of these objects or the data points, how close they are, and from there we will begin, and we will end up with some number of clusters. And the most popular clustering algorithm is the k-means algorithm, and k-means is the top down. We are going to find we are going to set the k value. K is nothing but number of clusters, and then according to that we do the clustering analysis. It is a top-down statistical technique based on the method of minimizing the least squared distance from the center points of the cluster. So that is the technique. So we are going to see one example that will clearly tell how that particular algorithm works. And other techniques are neural networks. We can use the neural networks for the clustering problems as well. Comparing cluster algorithm is difficult task as there is no single right number of cluster. So in case of a supervised learning, whether it's a classification or prediction, you have like you can apply n number of algorithms and you can find the accuracy, because we already have the predicted values. Training data is available. Based on that, we can check what model is better. Okay, which model is better? What is their efficiency? All those things can be measured. But in case of a clustering, we don't know what is the right number. So comparing these algorithms is very, very difficult. How well we define the clusters that are given by the algorithm, maybe that is a one measure we can have for the comparing the different kinds of algorithms. However, the speed of the algorithm and its versatility in terms of a different data sets are important criteria. Those criteria can be checked. How quickly it will form the clusters, and the versatility for different kinds of data, that can be used as a criteria for comparison. This is the generic pseudocode for the clustering problem. First, what we are going to do, we will pick any arbitrary number of groups or segments to be created. So that is, you are going to select the k value. If it is a k-means algorithm, initially you will say like a three groups or a four groups, and that is how you are going to start. Then you are going to start with some initial randomly chosen central values for the groups. So you are going to choose random center values that are centroids. Then you are going to classify instances to the closest groups. Now you have, let us say you have found, assumed there are going to be three groups. Then you are going to choose three random values for those groups. Okay, those acts as a centroids. Then you are going to classify each and every object or the data point. Either you will classify it into one of these three, right? Because you want to do the three clusters, you will classify one among the three. Then once you assign the instances to the groups, you will recalculate the centers, okay, or the centroids. Excuse me. Then we are going to repeat 3 and 4 until we classify all the data points or the objects that are given. And how to do that? Repeatedly we will repeat the steps 3 and 4, 3 and 4, until we are completely satisfy or completely classify all the data points of the objects. And if clusters are not satisfactory, then after doing this repeatedly, once you are done with all the data points, you should be able to see the clusters. If you are not able to see the clusters, Then you go back to the step number 1. Again, you change the a different value. Maybe when you chose 3, you did not see a clear segmentation or the grouping. Maybe go for a 4, or maybe go for a lesser value based on what kind of a output you are getting. So this is the algorithm. Here we have one example. I have a x and y value, and if we plot those x and y value, I have used a simple Excel, and using a scatter plot, I have all the data points. Using the scatter plot, I have scattered. I have created the scatter plot. So how to create that? Let me delete and quickly show you. Select the data points. You can see here I selected all the data points x and y, and go to insert. You can see cluster, sorry, scatter, and this is the scatter plot you want to. So you can see this is how each of these data points, okay, these are the data points, 10 data points are there, and if you plot it, this is how it will look like. And if you may try to make a like a manual grouping, maybe like I visually I see 3 groups. This is one group, this is another group, and this is another group. Okay, on this data set we will do the clustering analysis. And if you see, these all these are scattered, right? Maybe I can choose it as a one complete, as a one cluster, as a this as a one cluster. So that is how you are going to see a scatter plot of 10 items in 2 dimensions. Show them distributed fairly randomly. As a bottom up technique, the number of clusters and their centroids can be instituted. Now, so I will select like a 2, okay. However, there is a big distance between the points 2, 6 and 8, 3. It's very 2, 6 is this, and 8, 3 is this one. So there is a big difference between them. So this can be could be broken into 2 clusters. So based on that, I can think I can break it into 2 groups. The 3 points at the bottom right could be in one cluster, and the other 7 could be in the another cluster. So you can see this could be in one cluster, and this could be in another cluster. The 2 clusters would be looking like this. Okay, so this is the one cluster, and another is the this cluster. The 2 circles will be new centroids. The bigger cluster seems to too far apart, so it is like the 4 points on the top will form a separate cluster. The 3 clusters could look like below. So when we made this as a one big cluster, there is a too much of spread. Maybe we can consider the top 4 ones. So these top 4 ones, they are very closely together. Maybe we can consider it as another cluster. So that is how we get this as another cluster. This solution has 3 clusters. The clusters 1 on the right is far from the other 2 clusters. However, its centroid is not too close to all the data points. The cluster at the top looks very tight fitting with a nice centroid. So this one, this particular is, it looks very nice. It is very tight, and we can give a very good definition for this one. However, if you see this left one, it doesn't show that it is closely those data points are closely related. The third cluster at the left is spread out and may not be of much usefulness. So this particular one, it is spread, and there is it may not give, we may not be able to give a very good definition for that particular cluster. This was a bottom-up exercise, and in visually producing 3 best fitting clusters definition from the given data. The right number of a cluster will depend on the data and application for which the data would be used. So again, as I said, what is the right number? It's a very difficult question. It depends on the business. It depends on how well the clusters will get defined. Next is a k-means algorithm for clustering. In case of a k-means, is the most popular clustering algorithm. It iteratively computes the clusters and their centroids, and it is a top-down approach. So it's a top-down approach, means we starts with a k number of clusters, and we drill down into the until we classify each of the data points, and at the end we will see how the clusters will look like. If it gives a good definition, then we will keep it. Otherwise, we go with a next value of the k cluster, and we will repeat the whole process again, starting with the given number of k as 3. So k is a 3 clusters. 3 random centroids will be created as a starting points of the centers of the 3 clusters. So these are the indicators of those clusters. So initially I will say just randomly you are going to select this one. Now, what is the first step? For data point, distance values will be from each of the 3 centroids. So each of the data point we will be calculating the distance from these centroids, and whichever is the minimum distance, we will put that particular data point. We will assign it to the centroid. All data points will thus be assigned to one data point or the other. The arrow from the data element shows the centroid that the point is assigned to. So you can see I have one centroid here. So these 3 belong to the centroid here, and these belong to another centroid. Okay, so total 10 data points. These 3 are assigned to this centroid, these 2 are assigned to this, rest are assigned to this centroid. Once we assign the centroids to the data points, we recalculate the centroid. Now we have all the data points. Using this and this data point, I recalculate and find the new centroid. Now you can see the centroid has shifted to this location, and this centroid has shifted to this location. This centroid has shifted to this location. Once we have the new centroids, again we are going go through all the data points, and uh, once again data points are assigned to 3 centroids closest to it. Once we have new centroids, these are the new centroids. Again we are going to do the same exercise. We are going to go through all the data points. We will find out distance from these centroids, and whichever is closer we will going to assign it to that particular centroid. So we will iteratively we will do this until and unless we find a this particular process will get stabilized and we see a clear clusters. The new centroids will be computed from the data points in the cluster until finally the centroids stabilize in their location. Stabilize in the sense what? Whenever I'm doing the exercise of reassigning the centroids, I will get the same centroid. Then we will say that all the centroids are stabilized. These are the 3 clusters computed by this algorithm. So this is the 3 clusters. Initially we did it using the visually. Now using the k-means algorithm, these clusters are created. The 3 clusters are shown, 3 data point clusters, centroids. These are the centroids that are given. These cluster definitions are different from ones derived visually. So there is a difference in what we did manually, looking at how it looks like. So visually we did the clustering. This looks different from that. The centroid points used earlier in the visual exercise were different from the that chosen in the k-means clustering algorithm. K-means clustering exercise should therefore be run again with this data, but with new random centroid starting values. With many runs, the cluster definitions are likely to stabilize. So what we did was earlier, we took initially these as the random initial centroids. Maybe you pick something else, okay, and repeat the exercise. Okay, so you are going to repeat this exercise until and unless we get a very stabilized centroids. If the cluster definitions do not stabilize, that may be a sign that the number of clusters chosen is too high or too low. Suppose if we are not able to stabilize those centroids, that meaning is the number of k, that number of clusters we have chosen is not right. So we should try with a different value of the k and rerun the algorithm. The algorithm should also be run with the different values of a k. This is the pseudocode for implementing k-means algorithm. Algorithm k-means k number of clusters, d list of data points. Choose k number of random data points as an initial centroids In our earlier example, we chose it as 3. It is a random number. You just choose it and choose the k number, and the random data points has to be chosen. This repeat till cluster centers stabilize, means whatever the cluster centroids we are getting, those values should not change. With the repeated iteration, it should not change. That is what is called as a stabilization. Until that, we have to repeatedly do the step A and B, allocate each point D to the nearest K centroid, and compute the centroid of the cluster using all points. So we have to recalculate. Selecting the number of clusters. So how many numbers should be selected? Again, it's a very difficult question. The correct choice of the value of the k is often ambiguous. It depends on the shape scale of distribution points in dataset and the desired clustering resolution of the user. Then there are certain heuristics that can be used for getting a right number. One can graph a percentage of variance explained by the cluster against the number of clusters. That is the example I will show here. So this is the variance that is explained. As you can see, the number of clusters are increasing. There is a very good explanation of the variance of the data points. At this point, there is not much significant change in the explanation. So here you can say there is a drastic change. So this is the knee point. Maybe this knee point would be the most appropriate number of clusters. That is like 3. Number of clusters is 3. So this is another way of having that. The first cluster will add more information, explain lot of variance, but at some point the marginal gain in variance will fall, giving a sharp angle to the graph looking like an elbow. So you can see this as a like a elbow. This particular elbow value can be selected as a number of clusters. Beyond that elbow point, adding more clusters will not add much incremental value. So that would be the desired k. So here it will not add much value by increasing the number of clusters. So this elbow is the best value to be chosen for the number of clusters. Advantage of k-means algorithm. There are many advantages of k-means algorithm. First one is k-means algorithm is very simple, easy to understand, easy to implement. So that is the one advantage. It is also efficient in that time taken to cluster k means rises linearly with the number of data points. So this is a very efficient technique, and the time taken for the to make k number of clusters, it depends on the how many data points you have. No other clustering algorithm performs better than the k-means in general. So if we have other we have many other algorithms, but k-means is a very good algorithm, and it is very intuitive how the data points get merged into different clusters. It's very intuitive, and accordingly we can choose the random points. Accordingly we can choose the k value. Disadvantage of the k-means algorithm: there are very few disadvantage. There are disadvantages, very few. User needs to specify an initial value of k. That is the biggest disadvantage. Initially, we have to user has to tell how many clusters has to be created. Okay, that is the disadvantage. The process of finding the cluster may not converge. Okay, as I told you, depending upon the random points and the depending upon the k values, every time it may not converge. Every time it may not converge means we will not get a stabilized centroids. The centroids will keep on changing, so we will not converge to one value. That possibility is there. It is not suitable for discovering cluster shapes that are not hyperellipsoids or hyper spheres. So if it is not hyper spheres, it is not a suitable algorithm. And apart from the k-means algorithm, we can use the neural network neural networks. Neural networks can also be deployed for clustering using the appropriate objective function. The neural network will produce the appropriate cluster centroids and cluster population for each of the cluster. So the neural network is another technique that we can use for the cluster analysis. Conclusion: cluster analysis is a useful, unsupervised learning technique that is used in many business situations to segment the data into meaningful small groups. So major is the segmentation. Segmentation is the major requirement for the cluster analysis. K means algorithm is an easy statistical technique to iteratively segment the data. So segmenting the data is the most important thing. Then you must use the cluster analysis. However, there is only a heuristic technique to select the right number of cluster. So for selecting the number of cluster, yes, it has to be heuristic, because there is no right or no perfect way of doing it. So there is only best or the better way of doing the clustering. How well you define, how well business understanding will be able to get the different kinds of cluster, it is dependent on the data modeler.